platform. So what are you going to do to move past these previous token efforts?
Congresswoman, we do take illegal drugs content on our platform very seriously. It violates our guidelines to proactively identify and remove them. And as you pointed out, if anybody searches for any drugs on our platform, we do point them to resources to help them with that. At the same time, we have also taken product changes. Like, for example, we don't allow our under 16 users to use direct messaging. And the reason is because, we wanted to, there was a trade-off here. And we believe that, it will protect these younger users better from getting contacts from people trying to push illegal activity. So we will continue to work on it. Again, no company can be perfect at this. We're not saying we are.
Mr. Chu, I, with all due respect, the no company can be perfect line has been used way too much today. I'm going to reclaim my time. Clearly in the 3+ hours you've been before us today, what you're saying about Project Texas just doesn't pass the smell test. My constituents are concerned that TikTok and the Chinese Communist Party are controlling their data and seeing our own vulnerabilities. If you were an American company, we could look at your 10K, we could see who your shareholders are. The answer you provided earlier today, you'd rather not tell us what your compensation is or how it's derived. Well, no American CEO would like to tell us that, but they have to because they're an American company. So what you're doing down in Texas, it's all well and good, but it is not enough for us to be convinced that our privacy is not at risk. So how can you say that you're protecting American users' privacy with the CCP being so heavily involved with ByteDance? It's not possible. China won't even carry your product. How is it that you can convince us that our privacy is not at risk? And more than that, our kids' privacy is not at risk in this country.
In my opening statement,
thank you, Madam Chair.
Gentlelady's time has expired. We're going to have to continue on. Gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Allen's recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Chu, for being here today. September 2021, the Wall Street Journal published an article titled "How TikTok Serves Up Sex and Drug Videos to Minors." This article gives a chilling depiction of the types of content that TikTok's algorithm is curating for our children. This article claims that your application served an account that was registered as a 13-year-old, quote, videos about drug use. It referenced to cocaine, meth addiction, and promotional videos for online sales of drugs. The algorithm was also found to have delivered countless videos depicting, quote, pornography and other adult content to the device of an account that was registered as a 13-year-old. Could you please explain to the members of this committee and parents across the country why your company deems it acceptable for such inappropriate content to be prominently featured on a child's For You page?
A lot of the content that you mentioned, Congressman, are violative of our own policies, and we don't think they're acceptable, and we will remove them when we identify them. We take this very seriously. I mentioned this. This is an industry-wide challenge. We're investing as much as we can. We don't think it represents the majority of the user's experience on TikTok, but it does happen. Some bad actors try and come in and post some of this content, and we're doing our best to invest as much as we can to remove them.
Well, I would say you're not doing enough. I have 14 grandchildren, Mr. Chu. Do you personally believe that such content is appropriate for minor children to consume?
A lot of the content that you mentioned, like porn, for example, is not allowed on our platform. So no, I do not think they're acceptable for young people to consume.
Earlier this week, the Wall Street Journal published an article titled, quote, TikTok's Chinese partner has another wildly popular app in the U.S. This app is called CapCut. It is a video editing tool to help users go viral on TikTok. While for obvious reasons, most of our attention is focused on TikTok and ByteDance, other companies and their applications are also continuing to exploit the privacy of Americans. TikTok, CapCut, Lark, FaceU, all of these apps are also controlled by ByteDance and pose serious privacy concerns. In 2022, it was reported that TopBuzz, an international version of ByteDance's censored Chinese news app, was used to spread pro-China messages to Americans. When it comes to the data privacy of Americans, we must have a clear set of guidelines to ensure Americans' data is protected and not passed along to unknown third-party actors who could pose a threat to our security. I urge my colleagues to continue to work together to pass a national data privacy bill, not just one out of the House Energy and Commerce Committee, but also through the House of this Congress. It is the only systematic way we can address privacy concerns. Unfortunately, I've been given no reason to believe that TikTok does not pose a threat and cannot be trusted to follow our laws when they conflict with the desires of the Chinese Communist Party. Your firewall that you're talking about, if you had a bad actor in your, what you call your Texas initiative, could get through that firewall and send any information that they wanted to send anywhere directly to the Chinese Communist Party. Would you deny that?
Congressman, this risk that you talk about exists for every company, bad actors.
I'm talking about TikTok, sir.
In fact, the risk is lower for us because these.
It is a risk, correct?
The personnel will be vetted. So the
Yeah.
risk is actually lower than most companies in the industry.
Well, that is why we have to deal with your company. And with that, Madam Chair, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes the gentleman from California, Mr. Peters, for five minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Chu, thanks for being here today. Your testimony discusses an effort your company has named Project Texas and the investments your company has made in creating a firewall between the United States user data and entities in China susceptible to influence by China's government. And with your company's recent announcement by CFIUS that CFIUS has instructed TikTok to separate itself from ByteDance or face a ban, TikTok's commitment to retaining this firewall is at a crossroads. So I want to ask you some questions about your company's long-term plans to ensure the safety and security of American data. And this, for me, is the crux of the concern for me about TikTok. First of all, does the Chinese government need to approve Project Texas for TikTok to agree to it?
Congressman, we have designed Project Texas to move forward in the United States. This is something that we have described at length in the written testimony and in my opening statement. The firewall of American data stored on American soil by an American company overseen by American personnel. This is designed to move forward in the United States.
But does the Chinese government need to approve Project Texas for you to agree to it?
We do not believe so.
How is TikTok considering the future of Project Texas in the event of a sale or other ownership changes? Are there elements of the Project Texas that TikTok would change prior to, or?
I cannot speak on this hypothetical or on, on potential, owners who I cannot represent.
Okay, you don't know.
I don't know, yes.
Despite Project Texas's planned positive changes, it does include several broad exceptions that would allow large amounts of U.S. user data to routinely leave the country. I want to know a little bit more about these exceptions so I can understand whether Project Texas can live up to its promise protecting Americans' user data. I understand that under Project Texas, business data and public data will be permitted to regularly leave the United States. Is that correct?
Almost all the data is under that's not public, is under the definition of protected data. This accepted data that you mentioned, I can get back to your team on this, is really for interoperability purposes, to make sure that the business can still operate and American users are still getting the benefit
Can you tell us
of a global platform.
Where the data goes and how it's used by the company?
It will travel outside of the United States, but I can get back to you on the specifics. It's data that it cannot be used to identify users, so it really is data that ensures the interoperability of the platform.
And I understand that. I think we would want to have some understanding of how we would distinguish that by definition and then also how it would be enforced.
I can get back to you on those specifics.
How is the U.S. data used to promote certain content back in the United States market, for instance?
I'm sorry?
So what you'll have U.S. data feed the, all right. Can you discuss, when you discuss where the data goes and how it's used by the company, how and at what points of data transfer does the U.S. data feed the PRC developed algorithm used by TikTok? How would the data that you're talking about?
TikTok is not available in mainland China.
The PRC developed algorithm used by TikTok, how does U.S. data get fed by that?
The algorithm that leads to the US app in the Oracle Cloud infrastructure and is trained by US and global data. Again, TikTok is not available in mainland China.
How can we trust that these exceptions for Project Texas won't be abused by China's government or by foreign adversaries?
This is the fourth commitment: transparency, third-party monitors, including the definitions of these exceptions, and we can be very transparent on how they're used.
Okay, I guess my question will be that you want to get back to me in writing, that's fine, but how we would distinguish between the data for interoperability that you suggest needs to be shared with what data wouldn't be shared?
It's again, it's first of all, public data is not part of the protected data definition, because public data is what users want to share globally. So if you post a video and you want someone in France to see it, just by definition, it has to leave the United States. Otherwise, the world cannot see it. Now, there are certain aggregated and anonymized data sets that's useful for interoperability for advertising, for example. Right. And that is part of what we're talking about.
Right.
I can get back to you on the specifics, but
I think we'd also want to know how it's anonymized and what oversight and enforcement we can count on.
Okay, I can get back to you on specifics.
Thank you. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Texas, Mr. Pfluger, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Chu, I got to hand it to you. You've actually done something that in the last 3 to 4 years has not happened, except for the exception of maybe Vladimir Putin. You have unified Republicans and Democrats. And if only for a day, we're actually unified because we have serious concerns. Does TikTok support good? I mean, is TikTok a platform for good? Just yes or no?
I believe yes.
Okay. Does TikTok support freedom of speech?
Yes, it's one of the commitments I've given this committee.
Do you personally support the First Amendment?
Congressman, I'm here to talk about
As the CEO of TikTok?
I'm here to talk about TikTok.
As the CEO of TikTok, do you support
TikTok supports freedom of speech.
Thank you. Does TikTok support genocide?
Again, Congressman, I'm here to talk about TikTok.
Does TikTok support genocide? Does TikTok?
No.
Okay, thank you.
But I'm here to talk about
reclaiming my time. I'm going to go to a video now, and it's from Enes Kanter Freedom. And I'd like you to see Enes Kanter Freedom, who has spent his entire career post-MBA fighting against human rights violations within the Chinese Communist Party. Go ahead and play this video, which highlights a situation that allegedly shows some human rights violations inside China. Please play. Mr. Chu, this was a video that was posted on TikTok by Enes Kanter Freedom. Are you familiar with this basketball player?
I'm not familiar with the specifics of this, but I can tell you that.
Are you familiar with the player Enes Kanter Freedom?
Congressman, I'm not
Okay,
familiar with this.
CEO.
You just have to open TikTok and just search for this kind of content. It really exists.
I've read the moderation policy. Let me just quote what you've talked about: content moderation. TikTok has a moderation policy, yes?
We do have community guidelines. That
one of the guidelines says material that in the sole judgment of TikTok is objectionable. Is this an example? Banning Enes Kanter Freedom, is that an example of objectionable material inside the Chinese Communist Party in mainland China?
We do not take down content simply because it's critical of China.
He was banned
one
1 week after this video.
We do not do that. And I can check on the specifics.
If you need a note, go ahead.
The note says he's not banned.
His account was taken off 1 week after.
We can check on the specifics.
We can check.
Yeah.
So let's get to some other questions. Thank you for the slide. Your privacy policy states that you collect a great array of data: keystroke patterns, app file names and types, sometimes approximate location, GPS location. Are keystroke patterns and rhythms part of TikTok gathering, the data that is gathered by TikTok?
If you're talking, Congressman, specifically about keystrokes, keystrokes, we do not engage in keystroke logging to monitor what the users say. It's to identify bots.
Okay.
It's for security purposes, and this is a standard industry practice.
You gather a lot of data, it's safe to say.
We don't believe we gather more than any other social media company.
TikTok gathers a lot of data because your value proposition, as you sat in my office and told me, was to connect people to each other around the world. You told me this in my office. So you gather data on what they like and what they don't like, and then you show them things that they don't know they like, but eventually they may. You told me this.
I think I don't think that's what I said. What I said is that we connect people together, yes.
I'm
These
gonna
are
reclaim-
interest signals, and that doesn't mean that we collect more
Are
data
you
than other
aware
companies.
of any instances of TikTok distributing content from Chinese state media?
I'm sorry?
Are you aware of any instances of TikTok distributing content from Chinese state media on the platform?
We will label them clearly for our users to understand that.
Do you disagree with FBI Director Wray and NSA Director Nakasone when they said that the CCP could have the capability to manipulate data and send it to the United States? Do you disagree with their statement?
Their statement says could.
So do you disagree with that?
No, I don't disagree with that.
Okay, so it is possible that the CCP, under the auspices of ByteDance, which is your parent company, which you get paid from, has the ability to manipulate content that is being shared with 130 million Americans, yes?
Congressman, I just want to make sure I'm understanding all these questions. I don't disagree with them that there are data risks in general. That's what I meant.
There's a big data risk
But
because
on us specifically,
are there engineers located inside mainland China that work on TikTok? Not Douyin, but TikTok.
we are not the only company that has that.
Are there engineers inside mainland China currently working on the algorithm for TikTok?
Congressman, like I said,
As you
there
told
are
me in
other-
my office.
there are other companies that, as I told you in your office, there are
By
other
the way, I'm
companies
going to
that do
reclaim
that.
my time. Please rename your project. Texas is not the appropriate name. We stand for freedom and transparency, and we don't want your project. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentlelady from Tennessee is recognized for 5 minutes, Mrs. Harshberger.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Chu, for being here today. Both President Trump and now President Biden have backed forcing TikTok to sell to an American company. However, the Chinese Communist Party has put export controls on algorithms, ByteDance that power TikTok. And of course, this has created a gauntlet of regulatory hurdles in China and the U.S. that prevented the sale of TikTok. Now, as a longtime business owner, I want to tell you, Mr. Chu, that waiting until your hands are forced will only drive down the price of your app. And right now, both your hands are tied. And you're going to have to make a decision about whether you choose freedom from the CCP or you continue to be an agent of the CCP. And I'll tell you why I say it that way. As a former member of Homeland Security, I point blank asked FBI Director Wray, is TikTok a national security threat? And without hesitation, sir, he looked at me and said, yes, Congresswoman, it is. Now, how much data is ByteDance collecting through TikTok that's worth continuing to fight this regulatory gauntlet? Why not take the money and run like any other company would do?
Congresswoman, we built Project Texas in order to safeguard, and we listened to the concerns that have been raised, and we're building something that's unprecedented, that no other company is offering to protect U.S. user interests. And we believe it is rigorous and robust. And we are even offering third-party transparency and monitors to come in to verify this. Frankly, I haven't heard any good reason why this doesn't work. I've heard a lot of rhetoric around this, but I haven't heard a good reason why it doesn't work.
Well,
I look forward to these conversations, by the way, with you.
Absolutely. Well, let me go down this road. When TikTok was unveiled to the public, its business model was solely based on generating revenue from advertising. Of course, ByteDance operated a separate app called Douyin for the Chinese marketplace. TikTok is embarking on becoming a so-called super app. In other words, it's a one-stop shop with everything you do, as Representative Fulcher said. It's reported that TikTok's algorithms are so powerful that owner ByteDance has begun to license it to other companies. TikTok's recommendation engine drives usage on the platform, and this leads to promises of quick exposure and fame that leads to even more people joining. And when you sign up, TikTok starts collecting data about you, your location, your gender, your age, your facial data. The user never gets to the end of the content, and that's by design. And obviously, that makes you a lot of money. Now, I know that the Chinese Communist Party is preventing ByteDance from selling TikTok due to export restrictions on the technology, and this causes me to question, how are you going to power TikTok with your Oracle servers located in the US with that Texas project, with ByteDance technology, if it can't leave China? How's that going to happen? I just want you to explain how it's going to happen.
Congresswoman, the way that we design this is so that any piece of software that is impactful to the code that enters, that some technical details around this will be reviewed by a third party or a few third party monitors, just to make sure that we're all comfortable with the code. I want to say this again. I don't know of any other company in my industry who is offering this level of transparency.
Well, why are there two different versions of apps, one in China and one in the United States?
It's just a different business.
Well, I think we all know the reason that the Chinese get a different version, because ByteDance puts China first and America last. And, you know, TikTok has, with everything we've heard today, sir, when you see 13-year-olds, 16-year-olds, you see the degradation that's happening to our youth and our society. You know, it's deceptive, and it's destructive comment, and it's comments, and the worst thing is that it's deliberate, sir. And that's not acceptable. And with that, Chairwoman, I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Gentlelady from Iowa, Ms. Miller-Meeks, recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and just like to thank our witness, Mr. Chu. Having been in the hot seat, so to speak, before when I was in State Senate, I know how challenging this can be, and thank you for your demeanor throughout all of this. But certainly, as you can see, in a bipartisan way, we have concerns, and those concerns are valid. And this is a yes or no question. Does TikTok track users' individual keystrokes?
Only for security purposes, for example, detecting bots, but we don't monitor what users say.
So the only purpose that you would monitor keystrokes is for security purposes.
I can get back to you on more specifics, but this is not unlike what many other companies in the industry does.
So the keystroke monitoring does not go beyond what common industry practice in comparison to platforms like Facebook or Instagram use?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. And does TikTok keep records of users' credit cards and passwords?
I'm not aware of that. You don't need that to log in. Of course, I can get back to you on specifics if you make a transaction on an e-commerce platform. But regardless, all that US data will be stored within the Project Texas firewall, within the Oracle Cloud infrastructure and overseen by American personnel.
So you would store credit card and password information?
I need to check on the specifics. We are launching a pilot e-commerce plan, and we're making sure that that data is very secure within the Oracle Cloud infrastructure.
I think you've made a point of saying that your platform is not different than other platforms on social media, and therefore are no more responsible than Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or the other social media platforms. The concern, however, comes with where the technology is generated and whom it is owned by. And in the case of other companies, it is generated in the US, under US guidelines, under US privacy laws, with certain parameters versus generated through a parent company, ByteDance, which, as we know, is susceptible to the laws of the Chinese Communist Party, which has access to all of that data and information. And I understand that TikTok has just reinstated Enos Kanter's account recently. So our concern, and the question I have for you is, why would China or the Chinese Communist Party be opposed to a forced sale of TikTok?
I cannot speak on behalf of the Chinese government. I can say that we designed Project Texas to take it forward here in the United States. And again, I believe it offers unprecedented protection for US user data.
Yeah, I think the problem is when there is a lack of transparency, then that leads people to believe that there's something more nefarious and that there is, in fact, data that is captured, is stored, and poses a risk not only to children in the United States, but also poses a risk to national security. With that, I yield the rest of my time to my colleague, Jay Obernolte.
Thank the gentlelady from Iowa for yielding. Mr. Chu, I'd like to continue our discussion about Project Texas and the technical details about what you're proposing to do. So you are migrating all storage of U.S. user data to the Oracle Cloud infrastructure, and you think that that'll be done by the end of the year. Was that right?
Again, I can get back to you on the technical parts of it. The migration today, by default, all new U.S. data is stored
Okay,
by default
I'm
already.
sorry, I'm just using what you said in your testimony in your opening here.
It is stored there by default. What I said in my testimony is I'm deleting legacy data that sits
see.
in Virginia
Okay.
and Singapore. That's the
So
difference.
when this migration is complete, who will have access to that data?
Right now, a team called TikTok U.S. Data Security, led by American personnel, they have access to that. We have begun this operations already.
Okay, but the app itself has access to the data, correct?
Only through them. You know, any employees that have the data are
Well,
through
no, what I
them.
mean is like if I lose my iPhone and I reinstall the app and I put in my username and password, my app will reconnect to the mothership and download some of that data, my settings.
That's not the way it works. No, that's not the way it works. It will go through the Oracle Cloud infrastructure and that team that looks after this.
Yes, I realize that. So let me ask you this. What would prevent then someone with detailed technical knowledge of the way the app is constructed from creating an almost identical version of the app that could also access that data?
That's what we are giving you third-party monitors and transparency.
Yeah, but they're monitoring the source code for your app. I mean, ByteDance, these engineers have been working on this app for years. What would prevent them from making an app that could also access that data?
Congressman, I think we're going into the area where, what if there's a hacker? What if there is this?
Okay.
This
If
is a
you
common
could-
industry problem, as you know.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, I see my time's expired. It illustrates the point.
Okay.
I'm just skeptical that you're technically able to do.
Gentleman's time has expired.
what you
Gentlelady's time
promised.
has expired. Mr. Chu, I recognize that we have run over. I appreciate your time. We have just a few members left and would appreciate the chance for them to get to answer or ask their 5 minutes worth of questions. Gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Griffith, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Mr. Chu, you share legal counsel, lawyers with ByteDance, yes or no?
Yes, we do.
And you testified that you prepared extensively with your legal team for this hearing, yes or no?
With my team in D.C., including the legal
Including
team.
some of your legal counsel.
Yes.
Right. And did they tell you about the report to the Australian Senate of March 14th that I referenced earlier? Did they tell you that that report was out there, yes or no?
I cannot recall how I found out about the report.
But you know about the report?
I can check
Okay.
and, yeah.
And did they tell you to favorably cite the Citizens Lab in your written testimony today, yes or no?
Congressman, I need to get back to you on specifics.
They helped you with the preparation of your written statement, though, didn't they?
A team prepares, yes.
Yes. And did they tell you that the director of Citizen Lab says he has called out your company for misrepresenting their report repeatedly and did so as late as yesterday? Did they tell you about that, yes or no?
Congressman, the Citizen Lab is saying they cannot prove a negative, which is what I've been trying to do for the last 4 hours.
All right. But you cited it favorably as saying that it did positive things for you. That being said, let me ask you this. You keep talking about transparency, but you haven't been transparent with us here today. You were asked earlier by Mr. Hudson if you owned stock in ByteDance. You said you didn't want to reveal that. Well, we're trying to figure out what the ties are between ByteDance and TikTok. I'm not going to ask you how many shares you own, but do you own shares in ByteDance, sir?
Yes, I do.
All right, there you go. How about in TikTok?
Right now, all employees own shares in one
Yeah, sure.
entity.
I expected that. I just don't understand why you didn't tell Mr. Hudson that and were transparent earlier. Instead, you made us drag it out of you. All right. Now, let's talk about the kids. You told several of our folks that there was a 60-minute deadline. You also told us that if you were under the age of 18, you couldn't access the live section, the live option. So I texted my 17-year-old and my 15-year-old, and I basically got scoffs when I said, "Are you all limited to 60 minutes?" My older son said, Well, there is a notice I get from time to time that says I shouldn't be on more than 60 minutes, but it never has kicked me off. And my younger son said, oh, I'm on as long as I want to be. So I'm just informing you, whoever told you, particularly if it was your legal team, that that's not accurate, that they're on for more than 60 minutes and they can access the live section. I believe it was Mr. Carter that you said they couldn't, under 18, access the live, being on live section. He's done it. So whatever it is you think you're doing, it ain't getting done. Now, let's talk about the law for a minute. You share legal team, but you keep talking about how you got a firewall between you and ByteDance. You can't have an effective firewall under the United States interpretation of such if you're sharing legal counsel, because anything that you say to your legal counsel, they can share internally. If you've got the same lawyers, now maybe you have two different teams of lawyers in the law firm, but that's not what you said to us today. You said you share lawyers. There is no firewall legally. I'm just telling you. So if you want to clean it up and be transparent, you need to do something about that. Wouldn't you agree, yes or no, that you need to do something about that?
Congressman,
You'll look into it. I know. You'll look into it. You've been looking into it all the time. All right, you told Dr. Burgess when asked if your employees, if your employees who were members of the Chinese Communist Party had access to TikTok data from the U.S., you said you didn't know who was a member of the Communist Party. But then to Congressman Wahlberg, you said that the CEO of TikTok was not a member of the Chinese Communist Party. And to Congressman Kelly, you said the founder of TikTok was not a member of the Communist Chinese Party. Sir, either you know who is and isn't a member of the Chinese Communist Party or you don't. Which one is it? I submit that you know, and you just aren't giving us the straight story. Clearly, you know, but you denied that to Dr. Burgess.
I can ask one or two people, but we have no policy to ask all the employees. I can ask one or two people, but who are in.
But it's reasonable
key
to
positions.
assume that with a significant number of members of the country of China being members of the Chinese Communist Party, logic would tell us, you're a logical man, I assume, logic would tell us that there are a fair number of your employees who are members of the Chinese Communist Party, at least a dozen or so, who have access to this data. Isn't that so?
Again, like I said, I can ask one or two people.
Right.
We don't have a
So,
policy to ask
I
everybody.
said earlier, you're living in some kind of a cloud world, because either you know or you don't know. I yield back. Thank you, ma'am.
Gentleman from South Carolina, Chair recognizes for 5 minutes, Mr. Duncan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think what's been revealed today, there's not a degree of separation between ByteDance and TikTok. I'd like to enter in the record Heritage Foundation document, TikTok generation, a CCP official in every pocket.
Without objection, so ordered.
And I'd like to yield the balance of my time to Kelly Armstrong from North Dakota.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Chu, the TikTok privacy policy details extensive data collection on users. One line states that we may collect information about you from other publicly available sources. What publicly available data is TikTok collecting and adding to the profiles of users?
It will be publicly available, but I can get back to you on specifics.
Okay, what is the purpose of obtaining even more data on your users beyond the data collected from the platform?
We collect data. We want to give our users, by the way, a lot of transparency on what data we collect. We give them choices on the controls of their own privacy settings. And it really is to serve them a better experience. This is the reason why so many people love the app. It's a great experience.
So how does the non-TikTok related data service relate to the service provided?
I need to check the specifics and understand the question and get back to you.
Okay. Do you think the average TikTok user knows that you are and understands that TikTok's data collection extends to information outside the use of the app?
We do give transparent information on this, and like I said, I don't believe we collect more information than most of the social media platforms out there.
Well, and the reason I ask this is because I'm going to go back into the corporate structure. You described that TikTok is a subsidiary of ByteDance. Mr. Griffith just said that you guys share the same lawyers. You have stated that your direct report is the CEO of ByteDance, but you've also stated that at certain levels, TikTok operates without direct daily control from ByteDance. You have used content moderation as an example for that. TikTok's privacy policy states that you may share user data within your corporate group. Does that corporate group include ByteDance?
If you are talking about that one entity that has the share for Chinese media licensing purposes. I think it's called Beijing Douyin Services. If you're talking about that entity, if the government share, the answer is, we have cut off, all access of U.S. data sets to that.
So,
Employees of the entity.
but your user privacy, so your corporate group, ByteDance is part of your corporate group.
ByteDance is the top company. So yeah, you're talking about the other entities within the group.
So you just testified that you firewalled this. Does that statement, so you're saying the TikTok's executives that operate independently of ByteDance, but does that statement not hold for sharing of access to data?
Well, I was talking about that one entity that has, many of you have raised some concerns, that's the entity that I'm talking about. The entity with the Chinese government's investment that is for the purpose of Chinese internet licensing for the Chinese business.
Let me ask it a different way. What other entities have access to TikTok user data?
Well, after Project Texas, we're going to move it so that only TikTok user data security has control the access of that data.
Okay, so, and we could bring you back either after Project Texas is done, but right now, what other entities have access to TikTok's user data today?
Only by requirement. It's really only by requirement. Certain employees require some access of data to help build the product. But for US, we have moved it for Project Texas, and by the end of this year, it will be firewalled away.
But this is your privacy policy today. Like, I understand what you're telling us, what's potentially going to happen in the future. I have concerns, again, about CFIUS and government involvement, private organization, all of that. I'm just saying, this is your user agreement today. So your user agreement says that you share access with your corporate group. You're telling me what's going to happen whenever Project Texas gets done. I'm asking you today, who has access to TikTok's user data?
In our user agreement, Congressman, in our privacy policy, we also added a link so that our users in the US can be informed about Project Texas. The link is there.
So the link is there to private, but I understand what you're trying to do moving forward. I have my own concerns about that, but we're sitting here today in a hearing, and your privacy policy is different than your testimony. Your privacy policy specifically says that you can share user data within your corporate group. So are you saying even though your privacy policy says that, you're not doing it?
Like I said, I don't think there's any contradiction here. Like I said, Project Texas, when it's done, we firewall off that data. We still have some legacy data in Virginia and Singapore that we started deleting, and will be done by the end of this year.
So at the end of this year, then you won't share it. Does that mean you're sharing it today?
I don't believe so, but there is some data.
Then why haven't you changed your privacy policy? Why haven't you updated it?
We did update it, and we gave our users more information on Project Texas. We did update it.
Oh, sorry.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Texas. Chair recognizes for 5 minutes Mr. Crenshaw.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chu, for bringing Republicans and Democrats together. Appreciate that. I want to get right to the critical point of concern. So TikTok is able to collect massive amounts of personal data. We all know that. That means it could, if it desired, to use this data to influence narratives and trends, create misinformation campaigns, encourage self-destructive behavior, purposefully allow drug cartels to communicate freely and organize human and drug trafficking. Now, to be fair, all social media companies could do that. But here's the difference. It is only TikTok that is controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. All these other social media companies are not. Mr. Chu, do you agree that TikTok is controlled by the CCP?
No.
Okay, I thought you'd say that. I disagree, as you thought I might say. Here's why I disagree. Your parent company is ByteDance, right?
That's correct.
It is correct. So many of the workers who work at ByteDance, they're Communist Party members, right?
I wouldn't know.
Well, I think, for example, the chief editor at ByteDance, Zhang Vuping, is the Communist Party secretary, correct?
He works on the Chinese business, not on TikTok.
Right. He works for ByteDance, the parent
He works
company.
on the Chinese business.
Right. The parent company of TikTok.
The Chinese business is called Douyin.
Yeah, but it's all associated with ByteDance, right?
So ByteDance owns a number of businesses.
Right.
They are
You all report to ByteDance. Everybody's part of ByteDance, okay? And do you know of any other employees that work for ByteDance that are part of the Chinese Communist Party?
Like I said, there are ByteDance owns Chinese businesses and they operate in China.
You don't know how many, but you acknowledge many must be card-carrying members of the CCP, right?
In the Chinese business, yes.
Yeah, I mean, the CCP holds what's called a golden share in ByteDance that allows the CCP to control one board seat in ByteDance. That's publicly
That's
reported.
not correct.
It's not
That's
correct?
no,
It's been
it's not
publicly
correct.
reported. They admitted to it.
You can, on our website, we have updated it, so we can give people more transparent information on this. They have a share in a subsidiary that is only for the Chinese business. It has nothing to do with TikTok. And it's for the purposes of content licensing in China.
So there's not an internal CCP committee, which is a regular thing that happens in China. They have a CCP committee internally inside the company.
I run TikTok. I cannot represent the Chinese
ByteDance.
business.
Talking about ByteDance. No arrangement in ByteDance? So
again,
here's the main point of concern. China's 2017 national intelligence law states very clearly that, quote, any organization or citizen shall support, assist, and cooperate with state intelligence work in accordance with the law and maintain the secrecy of all knowledge of state intelligence work. In other words, ByteDance, and also your TikTok employees that live in China, they must cooperate with Chinese intelligence whenever they are called upon. And if they are called upon, they're bound to secrecy. That would include you. So, Mr. Chu, if the CCP tells ByteDance to turn over all data that TikTok has collected inside the U.S., even within Project Texas, do they have to do so, according to Chinese law?
Congressman, first, I'm Singaporean.
That's fine, but there are employees of yours and ByteDance is in China.
We understand this concern. In my opening statement, we said, we hear these concerns, we didn't try to avoid them or trivialize them. We built something where we take that data and put it out of reach. This is what we did. We put it out of reach.
Out of reach, but they own you.
No, we put it out of reach by storing them.
ByteDance owns TikTok. If ByteDance is and the CCP owns ByteDance because the CCP owns everybody in China. And so by law, they can make them do whatever they want, and they say that by law, you can't tell anyone about it. So they can make you hand over that data. Is that correct?
Data is stored here in American soil by an American
Well,
company
you say that.
overseen by American
We thought
personnel.
that, but leaked audio from 80 internal TikTok meetings shows that U.S. user data has been repeatedly accessed from China when you said it hasn't been. And here's the other thing, following back on my colleague's line of questioning, in your own privacy policy, it says that you may share information within your so-called corporate group. Is ByteDance part of that corporate group?
If you're talking about the share of the entity with the share, I shared with the previous.
Is ByteDance part of the corporate group?
ByteDance as a holding company is part of the corporate group. Yes,
It's part of the corporate group.
Yeah.
Okay, so your own privacy policy says you have to share data with ByteDance. And if the CCP says, hey, ByteDance, you're going to do what we say, and you can't tell anyone about it because by law, according to that 2017 national intelligence law, they have to do it. That's our concern. Maybe you haven't done it yet, but my point is that you might have to. And that's where our concerns come from. I mean, over 300 TikTok employees have worked for China's state-run propaganda media. That's just from looking at their LinkedIn profiles. Okay, so and my last point is this. I want to say this to all the teenagers out there and TikTok influencers who think we're just old and out of touch and don't know what we're talking about, trying to take away your favorite app. You may not care that your data is being accessed now, but it will be one day when you do care about it. And here's the real problem. With data comes power. They can choose what you see and how you see it. They can make you believe things that are not true. They can encourage you to engage in behavior that will destroy your life. Even if it is not happening yet, it could in the future. The long-term goal of the Chinese Communist Party is the demise of the American power, and that starts with our youth. At any moment, they could demand that all of TikTok's data be used to design an AI algorithm with the sole purpose of promoting Chinese interests and destroying our society from within. You want to know why why Democrats and Republicans have come together on this? That's why we are so concerned. Thank you, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. I remind the members they have 10 business days to submit questions for the record, and I ask our witness to respond to the questions promptly. Pursuant to committee rules, I ask unanimous consent to enter the documents from the staff list into the record without objection. So ordered. Members should submit their questions by the close of business on April 6th. Without objection, the committee is adjourned.